All right, and welcome back, everyone. So here we are, continuing with the third session within the third class meeting. So we had some questions that were starting to come in, Zach. The biggest one being the question about cycles. How long? Cycles,
That'll all become clear
sub-cycles.
later.
Okay.
That's actually something that is going to be addressed in these textbooks that we mentioned earlier. Again, now that I've explored something that is rich and very personable, and something that I think we as humans can kind of latch onto, because there's a little bit of that strange Roman society sort of standing in front of the Senate and getting backstabbed and political maneuvering, but then all this magic and stuff that we've seen in books and movies and whatnot. Now that we understand that, I can just start dumping facts on you. And I think writing that up as if you were reading some sort of a field guide is a very cool way of doing that.
Yeah. So far, what we've gone over in the textbooks have been excellent.
I'll throw this out. Elythia is not a planet.
Yeah.
It's a moon, actually.
Yes, it is.
But
much greater in size than Earth is.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other questions or comments that you guys want to throw in? Now is the time we can go ahead and start doing that.
Someone asked if the lifespan was similar. That's Lyric asked that. I'm thinking that the Elythians will be a bit longer lived, but nothing insane. I mean, I don't think that they should live, like thousands and thousands of our years. Not that kind of thing.
It won't be.
But
won't be that.
I don't mind them having a little bit more longevity, if for no other reason than they have a planet that they haven't, completely polluted to death, and so they have a nice, rich environment which supports their life. Also, they've got this, magic for healing. There's no reason why that shouldn't allow even the ones who know just a little bit of it to extend their longevity by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, Flash said, "Oh man, there's so many good little hooks and ideas in this." That's good. That's what I was really kind of going for.
Yeah, that's definitely what we want.
Something I could just tie a bunch of stuff into later if I wanted
I
to.
even saw an interesting comment from Pez earlier
Yeah, I couldn't look up much.
No, I know that. When we were starting to go into the Citadel on the attack.
Yeah.
Pez said, "That's the class I want to be right there."
Yeah, well, you notice I had kind of a little bit of fun with that one.
Yeah.
But I had to at least take somebody and show off some cool powers.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And actually, I didn't want it to come into, like the quintessential magician just wanders into the room and starts hurling lightning bolts and beams of light at everything and just brings everything down to its knees. I wanted something that felt like, okay, I'll just be honest. I wanted a ninja. I wanted a magic-using ninja for just a minute, and so that's what I wrote.
Let's see. Also saw something from Wolf Knightley a second ago that I thought was, it was very inspiring. It's very inspiring me to think even more about concept art. Absolutely, and that is why I didn't want anyone that's working on concept art to start going crazy until we had this down, because now you can really start to picture Earth and the things that transpire over a great period of time on Earth, and you can start to see Elythia now, and the things that take place over a great time in Elythia. So,
one thing I will just kind of cast out for feedback from you guys, though, is did you find it odd, problematic, distracting, or in any way negative with the tonal shift from timeline-style fact representation into something that really was a lot more personal, something that had a lot more of, I want to say humanistic, but I guess we'd have to say something like Elythianistic tone to the whole thing. Was that a problem for anyone? Okay, good. And most people are saying no.
And like I've told you, I had no problem with it either.
And Wolf actually said he liked this better than the timeline. I would like to have gone a very similar role than this with the human side. The reason I didn't is because there's a lot of ground to cover, and I think we're already humans. So it's fascinating, and I mean, I read William Gibson, I read Neil Stephenson, and I love that kind of thing, but I kind of wanted to get through that, and even in the rush job, I still ate up just about as much text as I did here.
Yeah, that's true. So if you were to spell all of that out, whew.
I mean, if you think about it, what you got from the human side takes us up through more or less today. Okay, just very, very, very recent future, up to high science fiction. And it covers the whole thing with just a few jumps. There's only a few gaps in a very, very long story. What you just heard a moment ago really only lasts a couple of days, with just a little bit of catch up at the very end.
Right.
But really, it's just kind of a, hey, here's how the Mage Lords came about. It tells only a very small portion of the story over a much deeper array of storytelling. But I wanted to do that because I wanted to make you feel like you had kind of gotten to know the Elythians just a little bit, or at least some of their history.
Of course, there are some awesome things in there that are also defined without getting into any specifics that we get to explore later, and I do mean awesome.
I was all subtle like Geron.
Yep, very, very subtle. So those of you that may have picked up on some of the subtle things that we speak of, good for you. But it's definitely going to be impressive when that all gets tied together. So, I know we've had a lot of questions from people about why spend any time on story. Let's just start talking game mechanics, and then once we know what kind of game we would like to make, then let's start weaving a story around that.
Well, hopefully what you've just heard kind of helps make that clear.
Yeah.
Because by going this route, we don't have to worry about any restrictions whatsoever. We can spend our time writing something that is cool and defining a world, and then use the game as a way to define how a player should be able to interact in this world. And I like that approach. I'm not saying that approach is right. I'm not saying it's the best way for every... it's not the best way for every single game development application out there. It's just the way we wanted to do it.
Yeah, and it's going to work beautifully because there's a lot of game stuff that I can easily sit down into this world, in my mind. Now, a second ago, Mr. Niels asked Busby J, I don't know if this was answered in the story, but is Elythia in the same Milky Way galaxy as us, or is it in a whole other galaxy all the way across the universe? I can't really talk about that because that's actually in one of the texts. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you guys will hear about soon. I don't want to start giving away a bunch of the...
Yeah, I don't want to dump too much of what you're going to hear about later.
So right now you're kind of, getting your first taste of Elythia.
I could answer it indirectly.
Okay.
Just by saying that I am personally of the opinion that if it was in the Milky Way galaxy, we would have found it a lot sooner. But that doesn't really mean anything, because really, I might end up, as we progress through this, doing a lot more reading up and research, of which I've already done quite a bit. But I may stumble across something like, actually, it might make more sense to do this, that, or the other. So, it's not an answer at all.
There has been a hell of a lot of research that's gone into this.
There has. I've spent more time reading than I have writing, and I've spent a hell of a lot of time writing.
But personally, I'm very pleased with how everything is shaping up.
Yeah, it's almost as big as Lee's terrain. It basically take the distance that Lee's terrain runs, and then add like, I don't know, 2 more blocks to it. That's the distance between Earth and Elythia.
But only 2 blocks. No, 2 more patches.
Yeah, 2 more patches. Just 2 patches out of reach before you fall off the edge. And you'd be good to go.
Okay, for those of you that are listening to this at a later point in time, you should be able to see. We're just watching stuff that's...
Yeah, hopefully we're capturing the screen. You guys can keep up with it. Because we're just seeing if anything interesting rolls across the IRC, or if there's any questions that we need to answer, or basically tell you we're going to procrastinate and answer it later, while I sit here and munch on candy.
So, Gavin, go ahead and raise your hand just so I can find you quickly over here, and let me bring you into to the discussion. There we go. Hey, Gavin.
Hey, Buzz.
How you doing, sir?
I'm well. Yes. Sorry. Let me just get me hair sorted. Yeah. Sorry. I was listening on loudspeakers, so I had to press a lot of buttons and click a lot of mouse.
Obviously, all of those things you clicked had absolutely nothing to do with sound, but still, you had to click them nonetheless.
If it's there, it's got to be clicked.
That's what I always say.
That's how I feel about it, really.
First of all, with Mr. Gavin joining us, with everybody here in the class listening, I just want to take a moment and thank him for what you guys don't know is Gavin's actually spent quite a bit of time with us recently, with different ones of us. Nelson and I helping test streaming system because Gavin's got such a poor internet connection. Working with Zach on story and lots and lots and lots of edits.
Oh my God.
And
I love you, Gavin, but I had to just kind of shake my head and close some of them because I was just like, oh dear God, do we really have to be that pedantic?
Yeah, I noticed that.
And of course working with Lee and
I love you.
and being teased heavily by Lee as he's so good at doing that. As Lee's coding right off the screen. Gavin can't see anything. Gavin can only see as Lee comes back over and hits play in the editor, and he's like, "Ah, how'd you do that?"
Yeah, for all the people who've been saying, well, we want to see more of the R&D. When you spent 6.5 hours watching somebody code, but not being able to see what they're coding, just hearing them cussing their own mistakes every now and again, and then it comes up and plays, is quite a long experience.
And for those people out there that say they've been wanting to see more of the R&D, they're going to get to see this R&D, but they're going to get to see a slightly cleaned up, but still not, not an actual final framework implementation type thing. It's just I kind of had to make the decision early on that recording a 22-hour session of testing and looking up on the web and trying different things out, and that at the end of the day would just end up killing our hard drives with a class that's going to be a million hours long. I still see this class as breaking 1,000 hours.
Gavin and I had a thought about that.
Okay.
We just do it once. Just one single video called, The Day in the Life of Lee and R&D. Put it up there and go, now this is why we give you the abbreviated, polished R&D videos.
Yeah, I mean, because still at the end, they're still just R&D videos. It's because we're still R&Ding.
Yeah.
Well, I suggested just doing a 24-hour live stream of just what the same as I was seeing coming across Skype with just the Unity editor open and hearing Lee talking to himself and going steadily mad overnight, and then birds singing in the morning and Lee's dog barking to let him know that it was time to go to bed.
Oh, did you get to enjoy one of those barking sessions, Gavin?
Yeah, it was like 7 a.m. I think for Lee.
Oh, that's not bad.
What UK time is?
Yeah, that's not bad. So anyways, let's talk story now. So, how are you feeling with everything so far, Gavin?
I love it. I do. It's right up my alley in terms of the sort of people I read, like Harry Harrison or Ian M. Banks, and the style of it is perfect for this, I think. And as you said just now, there's so much in there. Obviously, I've read it through a few times rather than just hearing it the once through. But when you go back over it, you could take notes, and there's just so much gameplay, game mechanics. Design,
yeah, you see how easy it's going.
In there.
Yeah, you see how easy it's going to be to start pulling the game out of this.
Chipsy has just asked, why don't I write books? You didn't notice I've already written 3? Just not novels, and I want to so bad it actually hurts my teeth a little bit sometimes. But anyway.
But he's had an absolute blast working on this stuff here. As we all have. It's just,
yeah,
it's
been a lot of fun.
But yeah, Gavin, I'm right there with you, man. This thing's just defining the story, and it gets even better. I don't want to go into details, but you've given Gavin some of the, I know you have, some of the textbook stuff,
yeah,
too.
but that stuff is under such heavy edit
It's under
right now.
heavy edit.
It's like it's that car in your garage that you love, and you just took it apart last weekend so that you could rebuild the motor, and you're just afraid to let anybody see it right now.
Right.
It's why I'm kind of backwards in coming forwards in terms of saying much about anything. Same with Lee's stuff is basically that I'm not sure exactly what I'm allowed to say about anything, so I'm just taking my lead from you guys, really.
Well, from what I mean, because as you know, the texts are under heavy edit, as Zach said, the textbooks, that is. But you have you've got the general theme from those much, much further ahead in the future. How are you feeling about that stuff, too?
I mean, that I saw that first, and that was that a week or so back?
That's about right.
That's about a week ago, yeah.
Yeah. Just the kind of first contact
Right.
part, I think of as the R2D2. But it's it sounds like I'm blowing smoke, but it's right where I think it needs to be.
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Well, hopefully we don't end up with a world that's, this is tricky. Now let's start thinking of a game a little bit. This is where things get tricky. Most of your people out there seem to want fantasy, even though fantasy's been beat to death, and World of Warcraft is all over it, and now Rift is about to be all over it, and, well, several others as well. It's still something that is it's heavily desired. But we're staying with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a funny thing. You guys just heard, like, the amount of love I just poured into the Elythian side of the story. I still much prefer the idea of the humans. Just me, personally.
Yeah, and me as well. But, we did the thing on the front page, and being the poll, which we need to go and get a new poll up sometime soon. We've just been quite
Just got to
busy.
find a new place to put it.
But, the two big things that everyone was interested in was an MMO that's fantasy-based or an MMO that was science fiction-based. And, of course, we were...
Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk. I hear you.
I'm all in on Cyberpunk.
And I hear you too, Jimmy.
But here comes our steampunk. The funny thing, guys, is I actually love steampunk. I always have. It's fantastic. The visual style is enough to just make me stare at stuff and drool for hours and hours. But all of this incessant clamoring and all of this insistence that every time there's a crack in the story, we find a way to fill it with the cement of steampunk has actually started to make me kind of hate hearing the word. It's funny.
Oh, come on, admit it. It's just because that was my preferred. And anything that I choose, you want to go 180 against.
I swear it has nothing to do with you. I really, it's not you at all. It's just that every time.
It's me.
It's Gav, really. No, but every time there's like a crack in the story, people want to grab great big gaping wads of steampunk and cram them in there to fill all the gaps. And it's like, I hear you, I understand, but quit saying it because it's getting on my nerves.
Now, Flash
mean, how else do you go faster than the speed of light? Steam power, of course.
Exactly, with cogs and gears and steam.
Well, as Flash had said back at 1515, he says, to blend the sci-fi and fantasy together in a way that has people interested in both. Yeah, that is really the hard part, and that is exactly what we're working towards. And again, Gavin and myself and NATO, we've had the privilege of hearing a bit more and discussing a bit more as to where things are more now when you get into game time, or at least real close to that point. And I think that an excellent job is being done with merging these two things together, science fiction and fantasy. And that's going to be very cool.
Well, actually, I've tried to get away from and completely avoid the use of words like magic.
Yeah.
I don't want this to actually be thought of as, I mean, yeah, okay, sure. If
well, we're gonna have humans that are going to think of it as simply magic.
Absolutely, because that's how they are.
How they are.
But I want this to be, it's just something they can do. It's almost more like an X-Men kind of thing. You know, but mix that with their much older style of society, and yeah, you get that kind of fantasy feel without being like, oh, well, I'm casting a spell. I even tried to stay away from words like spells if I could keep away from them. Right.
So, all right, Gavin, you got the floor. Anything you want to talk about? Let me grab a pad and paper because I'm just going to leave the IRC up, and I'm going to do something that I had mentioned it lightly on the forums, but let's go ahead and just have a little bit of fun. Let's talk a little bit about gameplay. Just now that everybody has heard human stuff and everybody has heard Elythian backstory. Now, of course, you guys are still missing more of present day. That's okay, just from what you've heard so far. Let's just start having a little bit of fun and just start scribbling some ideas down so that we can keep these things in mind as we go forward with the things we're working on. So, Gavin, let's start with you.
With me?
Yeah, with you.
What do you want from me? Well, clearly you've got the 4 remaining houses for a start. To start with the Elythians, because that's obviously what's in my head from hearing that. It sounds like you're going from the mentions of air being a specific thing with Geron. You're heading down an elemental style division of powers, or well, clearly some form of division of powers. I was wondering what Zach's thoughts on that were at the moment.
I'm looking at, well, right now, and of course all this is kind of up in the air, right? But I was looking at one house being primarily for elemental powers, another being for some of the more arcane stuff. And when I say arcane, I mean things involving time and space, primarily. Then another house strictly for, I think, and I actually have a secret mind map that I've been working on for all this. One that was for healing, and then the final one, which would be House Nexiar, which would be for the darker versions of the power.
Sorry, caught me on the fly there. Yes, because initially, because a lot of the way through that, it sort of sounds like there's going to be 7 houses, and then you've got the houses intermingling.
Yep, I brought it down. I wanted there to sound like there had been a lot of houses, but here's the catch. I actually did kind of do a little bit of back and forth between game and story development, because when we start presenting this game, I want to, let's say you choose the Elythian faction, okay? So you want to play an Elythian. Now you need to choose...
I want to play Geron.
Of course you do. A freaking course you do, because I made him sound like the ultimate badass. Ninja, okay? Ninja wizard. How awesome is that? But no, let's say you want to play as an Elythian, and so now you need to choose what types of powers you're going to exhibit. And as of right now, you're going to do that by selecting what house you're going to study underneath. And so
Right.
I didn't want there to be, right now, 7 different houses to choose from. So I used the Mage Wars as kind of a mechanism to diminish the number of houses and to simplify that down so that we can at least start off during the initial beginnings of our game development with just a few things to choose from. Later on, as we get more established, say we want to do something like and I got to use finger quotes when I say this, if we want to use like an expansion, then you could just as easily say that, another house has arisen, or a group of people have been trying to reestablish this house and it's now officially recognized once again. Or, you could come up with 150 reasons why another house could be brought into the fold, allowing for another group of powers to suddenly be accessible to the player. But by narrowing it down to 4, I just kept things a little easier for game development later. Also, I have in mind, and this is not something I really want to expose or talk about too deeply, I have in mind 4 primary corporations on the human side to kind of reflect this and to maintain a certain level of balance.
Yeah. Well, also, it's good news for me. It makes more sense to me. No one in the real world is that one-sided, that they only do the one thing. And you can get that. This house does only fire stuff, and this stuff.
Right.
This house only does sword fighting, and it makes more sense that you would have the opportunity to pick from amongst those. But do you envisage it being on a sort of tech tree basis as you work your way through?
I love tech trees personally. What I don't want to see happen is for you to say, all right, well, I want to do elemental powers, and therefore that is all I can do ever. All I can ever do is just cast maybe some fire and some water spells. I think it would be nice, and this is true on the human side as well, for you to have access to a large chunk of powers, but then you choose which ones you're actually going to be significantly effective in using.
Will this be based on your choice, or will it be will it be based on the idea that as you do something, you get better at it? Well, the best example I can think of is from, I think it was Baldur's Gate or a similar D&D computer game, where there was one point where you generally level up just before coming up against a boss fight, and it turned out that the boss fight was against undead, lots of raising undead. Now, that meant that if you were an archer, say, and you came up against it, you didn't have it was a much more difficult fight for you because you didn't have the clerical skills to turn undead. But
Right.
you could go back once you died, and as you leveled up, pick a level out, because this was Dungeons and Dragons 3rd and a half ed, and pick a level of cleric as a multi-class, get you just enough turning that would put you over the top. But it doesn't make role-playing sense that somebody who's only ever been a bowman all his life would suddenly decide to get all clerical. It breaks the idea for me, the realism, the immersion of it.
Yeah, but you got to ride that really delicate balance between the people who actually enjoy hardcore role playing, versus those who like playing a game.
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
And I'm not
agree.
even saying I'd really like to go that way, but let me throw kind of a different direction in there. I don't want anybody to feel too horridly, oh my goodness, I just have no other option, locked into any one thing. But okay, I don't want your choice in class to mean that you can never, ever, 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 ever do something. I mean, unless it's something really, really, really out there.
Well, this is kind of what I was getting to, because, as I said, it doesn't make sense that you'd only do one thing. But the idea that you should have to do something to get better at it is an idea I think is often underemphasized in games. You just suddenly be able to do something just seems like it brings you back to the leveling up is very much the cake for the players. It's well done. You've played this much, and you get to level up. Here's a nice graphic, or because once you get past a certain point, of playing the game, not necessarily in level, but just the amount of playing the game you get, and you get used to the way the game shapes up, and if that level thing is there, what many levels in advance what you're planning on doing.
Yeah.
If you've put a build together, so the level up itself is really, it could happen. You could just target a future target of where you want to be, because you're doing that essentially, and it's just that when it happens to tell you, oh, you've got enough XP by killing that to level up, then you tap in the numbers to take you in that direction anyway. There's other games, I'm trying to remember offhand.
Well, Oblivion, way back in the day, the Elder Scrolls series have had systems where if you use your sword a lot, then your strength goes up. If you jump a lot, your agility goes up. If you cast a lot of healing spells, your healing spells improve. That sort of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that makes more sense to me. I think it might even have been Guild Wars that system. Somebody will put me right on IRC, no doubt, if I'm wrong. But it's just I kind of, the overarching point that I can really make at the moment is that I don't think it's anytime you come back to a menu screen, which including leveling up, putting in options on leveling up, it emphasizes the fact that you are sat at a computer again. Does that make sense?
You mean it breaks that suspension of disbelief?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure how well we'll be able to get away from that, especially with various interface options that you will probably... I mean, I just think you would probably need in order to interact with the game.
Yeah, I realise it's a necessary part of it, but when when you actually pull right away in order to take care of a game mechanic.
I'm sorry, Flash just saw something that totally caught my eye. We should totally have Ragnarok as a hidden boss. With the Sword of Illusions. And if you can somehow find some way to defeat him, which I imagine would take a party of pretty much every player in the game, then yeah, the Sword of Illusions drops, but only one is allowed on the server.
Did I see, this is my subtle way to get out of this, did I see NATO it did actually make it to this class?
I think he was just in the IRC.
He was in IRC, but I don't know if he's
actually
in
the
IRC.
class. Yeah.
Ah, that's a shame. He's got some very strong ideas about game mechanics.
Yes.
That I kind of...
You don't want to steal his thunder and start talking about
I
the
don't want to
things he
steal
was
his
saying.
thunder,
Yep.
and some of the ideas I have had relate to Chris's ideas.
I got you.
Really.
And we can arrange to
So-
get Chris in on one of our
I think
very...
he said he was coming tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Raven just a second ago says, Buzz, pets, yeah, I'm asking again, but they're important to me.
Oh, God.
When just...
Well, actually, one thing was the pets idea that I brought up way back just with you and Zach.
You're interrupting, Gav.
yeah,
I just wanted you to know.
I was
I'm
reading.
terribly sorry.
I mean, that was so very British of you, what you did just then.
See,
What, lag?
when just, or if you bring
Yes,
them...
lagging behind.
bring them into the game? Can we train them with skills that we have? Like if I need to get to a point up a tower or some high place, could I mind link with my pet and climb to the place, then make a teleport
Oh my God.
from my main?
No. I just decided.
You just decided.
No. We're gonna have pets, but you gotta, buy your pet. You gotta take them to the vet. And you gotta feed them regularly, and
What?
those will all be microtransactions.
There you go.
Yeah, I hear
And Bob
you.
Barker's going to come in and tell you he needs to be spayed or neutered every 5 minutes.
Oh, God. Can we steal pets? That's interesting. Man, that would piss me off if that ever happened in WoW. Hey, there's some of my pets that I really love. And some of the
Some of them you spend a lot of money on.
nano-based pets, hell yeah, man. That's a must. Yeah, pets are definitely a must. And I really like the ability of pets being a little bit more than just a purely cosmetic element to the character. That's, of course, why, Angela's character has always intrigued me in World of Warcraft. She plays a hunter, and she has to worry about leveling up her pet. And
That's actually why I'm running a lock right now.
Oh, is it really? Oh, well, because you have a pet, too. But with a lock, do you have... you don't have a talent tree for your...
No.
Yeah, see, with Angie, that's always intrigued me, that she actually has a talent tree and can fine-tune the way her pet is going to fight. And I've always found that very interesting. Though I don't play a hunter, I just play a mage because I want to burn the entire world down, but that's beside the point.
Let's see if there's any other questions.
I'm looking, I'm reading.
Because, we could sort of kind of give people sort of the generic assignment to start thinking about this kind of thing, and then to email or PM various questions they might have, provided they can't make it to the meeting tomorrow.
Sure.
And then we could really bang on this gameplay thing in earnest tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely. But, that's why I wanted to get a little bit of this in now.
Yeah,
to start
absolutely.
out for people that won't be here tomorrow. But also, Zach, if you want to...
let's see. Hearing Zach reading this really made me think about the Codex in Mass Effect. When someone reads some of the in-game lore inside the game, it really helps the too long didn't read stuff. Sometimes it does. Really, sometimes it doesn't. So if Zach has nothing to do at the end of the production cycle, make him read the lore and put it in the game. I don't have a problem with that. You take... grab some, your favorite sound software and just digitize my voice a little bit, so that it sounds like some sort of digital history book that's just reading you stuff, and then you can sit there and read as much as you want. In WoW, you can open the map with M and just use the map, so that the MMO... So for the MMO, a blank map in which we need to draw your own map with a mouse or common object like trees and towns. No, don't ever make somebody draw with a mouse. ever. No matter what you think. Now, a map that more or less starts off relatively darkened and or blank, or to start throwing out terms you might be familiar with, filled with the fog of war. And then as you run around, it kind of starts to fill in. That's one thing if you wanted to go that route. But I can't help but think that as soon as you did, if we ever did anything as silly and or innovative, and you can take your pick as to which one I mean, allow people to create add-ons, that would be the first thing to go, is everybody want a fully detailed map. So you might as well just give it to them right away. Just here's a map.
And yeah, down here we have a mention from Chipsius? Chipsius.
You could have cartography as a skill.
That's actually something that Lee and I talked about a long time ago. Remember that, Lee?
Yep.
We had some very interesting discussions with that.
I also remember a couple of other ones, like giving them a camera and sending people around the world too.
Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have?
Can NATO hear us right now? Does anybody know if NATO can hear us? I mean, he's here, but I guess he's not in the class.
He's in IRC.
Yeah, he's in IRC, but I do not believe he's in the class.
Then I'll just write out.
You just tell him, jump into the classroom while he's doing his stuff.
Natty. Nice.
Yeah, mapping is going to be interesting. That's something else I've, briefly looked at. But with a world this large, being able to reproduce a mini-map's got its own little problems.
Yes, it does. We won't be able to approach it the way we did before.
Nope.
But also with mapping, with areas like, areas in Elythia that are well known, areas on planet Earth that are well known. You just have maps. Those maps already exist. I can go down to the local store right now and buy maps in all sorts of different flavors. Now it's areas that that anyone has yet to be or to explore. Those would be areas that you don't have maps.
And especially if you started getting into extraplanetary travel.
Yeah, you
get into a hard time though, because you're talking about super advanced sci-fi. You figured they'd have sat maps of everything.
Exactly. But I mean, as soon as you get out from under the range of the satellite, or you're underground or undercover, or any number of reasons I could think of, then that becomes a problem.
Right.
Googleverse.
Googleverse.
It'll be the equivalent of Google Maps for the entire universe.
NATO's got a party going on. I wonder what he's doing here then. Go to your party, NATO. Oh, tell him. He can't hear me. Go to your party, because his party almost surely has something to do with getting married.
And while Mac87 said that most of the ocean is still unexplored, very true, we do have some pretty detailed maps.
And then along came James Cameron.
Who shall finish those off for
Who
us.
should be a character in our MMO.
Oh, NATO's DJing right now. If he's DJing at this moment and typing into the IRC, he's doing a horrible
the worst
job
DJ
at
ever.
Yeah, for sure. Is Google one of the mega corporations of the future? Digital demigod. Matt, you did not pay close attention when Zach read off the human story, did you?
No, the big computer corporation would be Foresight. Foresight Incorporated, I think. Or is it Foresight Industries? I can't remember right now. I had to go look at
I thought it was Industries.
I think it's Foresight Industries.
Foreskin.
Yes, Foreskin. That's right. Though I did have a couple of various Google references in mind for them, because during the whole communication shutdown, when the object came in and tried to blues up the Earth, it was Foresight's network of dark fiber that allowed us to quickly reestablish a ground-based communication system.
Okay, we had another question come in from Matt Kidd. Let me go ahead and drag this back over here.
Can I send you a NovaMind file to take a look at? I have to step away for a couple of minutes, but it's expanded on some things we discussed a few days back. It might serve as a visual reference. I haven't gone as far as sketched visual examples yet. Yeah, by all means.
Yeah.
Zach at 3dbuzz.com is a rather convenient email address, pretty easy to remember. If you can remember how to spell Zach, which is only Z-A-K, which is still the easiest way I found to spell the name.
And people still mess it up.
Yeah, well.
And Tim had made the statement that players could perform a quest to switch specialties.
I don't necessarily have a problem with people switching specialties, but That said, I totally understand why games like World of Warcraft, for example, basically require you to start another player if you want to get a whole nother class out of it. I can understand that.
Well, this is the thing. If you've got, if a player of the game can have multiple characters, then surely that it makes sense, really, doesn't it? If you want a completely different, if you want to take it in a completely different direction, then you start with a completely different character.
Chipsy is yeah. You know what I meant. If I'm doing an official write-up, yes, you can get all over those, like Gav, but Gav will have probably already beat you by a good half an hour. But if I'm just talking, yeah, you know what I meant.
If it's in the second half, I won't have got to it.
I know. Well, if it's more than a couple of paragraphs long, you won't get to the second paragraph because you will have spent 6 hours on the first.
But it'll be right.
Yeah, and then the notes that you leave behind to edit will also have their own edits, which will in turn have their own edits ad infinitum. In Star Wars Galaxies, the ability to keep my main character and change him or her as I wish is so much better than a linear class system. Yeah, I suppose. I think you mean Star Wars Galaxies when you say SWG.
He's got to mean Star Wars Galaxies.
Or slimy weasel grubs.
I mean, I could definitely go out and change professions right now in the real world. I could go become a doctor. Of course, I'm getting pretty darn old, and I don't have that kind of money for the education. But if I did, and the determination...
Sure.
Patch Adams did it. Go for it.
Good movie.
James Cameron used to be a truck driver before he started doing such amazing movies.
Wasn't it Des Effects, too? Was it a truck driver?
Yeah,
before he
Des
got
Effects
into,
was as
started
well.
working for Disney?
Yep. They're changing
Harrison
professions.
Ford was a carpenter.
Yes, he was. A damn good one.
Anyway, are there any other questions?
Yeah, we're just looking over here right now. I guess without NATO here, because I didn't want to start jumping into my game mechanic ideas. There's just been so much that's been tossed around over on the classroom forums. I just wanted to give an opportunity for you guys to bring up anything that was of interest to you.
Meat, you just made me giggle. Thank you for that. He said Obama was a Canadian lumberjack with a shady past and adamantium claws.
He actually made me crack up earlier, too. He said you did a really good female character's voice.
It's all in the inflection.
And did anybody, by any chance, happen to have Sora's telephone number?
Nice.
It was just really funny.
Yeah, I do try to change my inflection a little bit.
So prototype 2 is, are there a number of things that you want to R&D before you put the game together? What's after terrain? Well, terrain's going to actually...
Making an MMO.
We're doing that, Zach.
Sorry.
Terrain's actually going to fall over into a few areas as it works forward, because persistence is coming up real soon now that Lee's actually painting in the world. And then on top of persistence, the next thing that will come is going to be multi-developer interaction in this world.
Yes.
So that so at that point we're going to have to start looking closely at communications that's going back and forth between computers and people interacting in the world together, and persistence holding up and functioning well.
Real-time artist collaboration environment.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So
Shaders still have to come before some of that. Even.
Yeah, I know, but I mean in the big picture, that is.
I mean, I thought we were going from terrain to scripting out our boss fights.
And then Flash, yeah, exactly.
I thought you were just going to ignore it, which would have been so perfect. That'd have been great. Just ignore him.
I hear that so much because, people are... people just think that that's pretty much... Or some, not everyone. I mean, we definitely got some good LOLs coming in. Some people think that, all right, well, cool, we've laid down a little bit of terrain stuff. You got some vertices. Can we start on the game?
No, we've got shaders to work on, water effects to work on, magic effects, combat effects, sound systems to work on, environmental systems to work on.
Well, we are working on the game.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you said environmental. Magic and combat, I'm not even worried about that kind of stuff at the moment. But I am interested in that's another part of the whole terrain thing that's going to be very important to me. And that is weather systems and day-night cycles. I mean, you guys have already picked up on the fact that there's going to be
one hell of a
multiple suns. It's going to be very
multiple suns from a planet that is in fact a moon,
and
revolving around a gas giant in a binary star system, which
only because I hate you, Lee. That's the only reason I
hate you for that. So.
I only came up with that because I hate you.
And Chipsius, I know you said for me to ignore you, but I'm not going to, because he asked, Lee, do you have a day-night cycle? And this one, no, but in his Minecraft clone that he was putting together for member sponsors, that's not being abandoned. We'll put a little bit of love into that into the future. But it did have a day-night cycle. That was...
And it had a damn sexy way of figuring out without having to get into, atmospheric harmonic or perspective and harmonic lighting to figure out.
That was pretty clever. I liked your little trick you did to do that.
Yeah, it was nice, and looked really good. So those two things are important to me. Plus, we're now getting to a point where we can start talking with people that are wanting to help with concept art. They've got a lot of stuff that they can start pulling some rich detail from to start putting things together.
That's the one part that's got me concerned. Because now that more and more you guys go into the story and more Zach fleshes out, I have a hard time going, how are we going to do this with, cartoony type graphics?
Well, just because the characters don't, sit here and talk in cute little voices and waggle their little arms back and forth doesn't mean you can't have all kinds of fun with visual presentation. I don't necessarily think that the two are locked into one another.
And we haven't said for sure. Only thing I've said is we're not going to...
Well, we've got to simplify a little.
We're not going to strive for photorealism. And please, let me go ahead and say this. When I say photorealism, I'm not talking about the real photorealism that we try to achieve when working in Maya and doing our renders with subsurface scattering, etc., etc. Yeah. I'm talking about photorealism from the point of view taken from...
we don't want a game that looks like Gears of War.
Thank you. We don't want we don't want to try to achieve that.
Mass Effect 4. That's not what we're striving for.
Exactly. Really. Now, Flash has asked a couple of times. Flash, I did not miss where you had asked it earlier, but he's asking about assets and who's going to be involved with the sculpting and things like that. For those of you that are interested in helping us once we get this system in place, even for starters, for testing and all, anyone who's in the class that wants to try it out, it's going to be open. I mean, we've got a pretty big world.
Yeah.
Lee, thoughts on that?
I was just thinking if we did a knockoff of those Lego-looking characters that they made all the Lego games with.
Yeah,
that might simplify a lot of stuff for us.
I was just thinking they'd be floating eggs.
First day server crash, damn straight. We're going to see a lot of server crashes. Oh my God, have we seen a lot in the past? Oh, but that's just how it goes. We're going to have those good times coming. I'm very sure of that.
Hey, Robert, is that in the IRC? Is that Robert Boss of story suggestion fame over on the forums
of Bossman Studios? All right.
Did you notice your PM box
filled with story goodness?
I actually leaked Robert an early copy of the story that I read to everybody, just kind of as a way of saying thank you for some of his very kick-ass suggestions that he threw out previously. But I never heard anything back, so I'm just saying.
He's like, that was poo.
Yeah, just it'll be the last time I break a story up into 9 parts and send them across a bunch of freaking PMs and stuff.
No, you're going to get a PM back that says, well, Zach, that wasn't bad, but it should be like this. Blam!
Yeah, and then he just forwards me the novel.
Zach weeps in the corner quietly.
Yeah. Yes.
No, we've got some amazing people that are in this class. For those of you that are still new to the world of game design, we have people from a lot of game development studios in this class. There's people that's been involved with Halo Reach, Halo Wars, World of Warcraft. Oh dear God, there's the one resume that I showed you the other day. Lee, do you remember any of the ones off of that? Because there were some really good ones on that one.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking up because Gav just hit me up. I'm trying to remember his name because
Well,
I was watching his demo reel.
Yeah, don't say any names,
No,
of course.
I know. I'm not. I'm just trying to find it so I can figure out what games he was working on.
Yeah, I can't bring anything up now because I'm actually recording my screen, so that would be just a dead giveaway.
Yeah, I'm looking for the right window. There it is.
So yeah, for those of you that are getting involved in the forums, I can say this: I do know for a fact that some of these guys read those forums and post in those forums. So yeah, this is just a really cool way for so many people to come together and get yourself out there, get noticed. I've seen some awesome ideas come across the MMO classroom. You still looking, Lee?
Yep, still looking. You've wrote a lot of stuff lately.
I've been a busy little boy. I know.
Yep, I found it.
Okay, so you're just naming off a few from that one.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 9.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Gauntlet. Suffering.
Some
Warren Conspiracy.
Yeah, I just got the freaking Ghostbusters theme stuck in my head now. Thanks.
So it's been very interesting, and as many of you guys know, Angie gets to talk to a lot of you guys, and Angela's talked with all of these individuals I'm talking about, and she's making good friends with interesting people out there in the industry. It's awesome. So she's usually the one informing me about, hey, just letting you know, we now have person X that's just joined into the class, and here's their website if you want to check out some of their work and their resume. Really nice guy. He said if we were ever over in the area to come by and visit, say hi, we'll go out and get some food. It's like, wow, good job. But yeah, anyways, I guess without NATO here, no NATO, no Derek.
We've answered some good questions over the last 50 minutes or so.
I know. Small idea. In an old game, Demon Souls, you can place
MSG on the ground? Like the stuff that they cook Chinese food with?
Well, yeah, you got to preserve the ground. So
Oh, okay, gotcha. So make sacred ground with MSG.
Not what do you know?
I don't know what he's talking
Place
about.
a message on the ground.
I guess is that one idea for the MMO Max 4 Max on the same time? I don't understand anything you're saying, Michelle. Oh, can you rephrase, please, Michelle? I beg you. Because I don't know about sprinkling MSG for ground preservation.
Pez is like in EverQuest. There are times when you can cast a spell and it would fail completely. Your spell fizzles. So I love that for some reason.
Sounds like my love life.
I hated that.
Man,
so
I'll
bad.
tell you what. My mage in World of Warcraft is badass. And if I go to cast something and it said it fizzled, man, I would beat him to death. There is no failing at...
Seriously, Michelle, I'm going to read what you just said, and then if anybody out there can make this make sense to me, I implore you to get back to me. In a old game Demon Souls, you, the letter, can place message on the ground / is that idea for the MMO Max 4 Max on same time?
Don't worry about your bad English. We're just
It's
trying...
all good.
Yep.
I just need somebody to help me out.
We're just trying to figure out exactly what you're saying. I feel bad for you guys having to listen to Zach read a story at 100 miles an hour that's...
I was really slow, actually. I paced myself.
For somebody who does not speak English well,
know,
that
okay.
would be very challenging.
I know.
So yeah, we're just trying to figure out exactly what you're asking.
Is that an idea for the MMO? It's the Max 4 Max on same time thing that you're losing me on, man. I really want to understand, but I don't.
Wolf Knightley, are we going to hear more about your ideas of gameplay? Oh yeah, you will.
It'll take many, many meetings to go through all of them.
Oh, come on, I'm not that badly.
Yeah,
Okay.
We've been talking about it for almost a year. There's a lot of ideas to put out.
Quest system. Quest system's got to be fun.
Okay, I see what you're saying. They're talking about placing messages on the ground. They could place up to 4 at the same time.
Yeah.
You mean like little signposts? I'm not sure.
Presumably
Okay.
messages to other players, I think.
Okay, all right.
No, you
kinda
don't.
like
You don't fail,
signposts.
Michelle. You don't fail. We're just trying to.
No, you're good. Like I said, it's just interesting trying to. We're working with you. It's all good. If you had failed, I'd have said, forget it. I can't be bothered. But no, I want to hear you and I want to understand. We'll just have to go back and forth a few times until we get it. I never actually considered having to leave messages to one another lying on the ground, though it's an interesting thing. Like I'd want to do it a little more discreetly. Like maybe you could leave a note behind for somebody.
Oh, BS! If you're on the side of the humans and you have hacker abilities to get into systems, what a great way to leave encoded messages that
Sure.
are hidden throughout particular data cells, or
Carve your name in the moon, that sort of thing.
well, there's always that. Yeah.
Well, alternatively, on the Elythian side, to leave sort of runish, secret, magical messages without using the words magical or runish.
I noticed, and
You know,
now you're like struggling because
Yeah,
those
I
two
know.
things came to
you
mind.
got destroyed. That's awesome.
It is.
Now I mentioned Quest system to you, Gavin, and I heard you go or something like that. What came to mind?
When was this?
A minute ago, I mentioned Quest system. I heard.
Oh no! Was I suddenly worked out what the messages max?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what the excitement was.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well,
Give me
the
ideas I didn't have.
I just call it Quest system at the moment. I know that really irks the crap out of NATO. He wants to call it mission, and I, who knows what kind of names we'll come up with, or maybe even use multiple, because
The do stuff system.
obviously it would be very weird if I was still working for like the Renaissance Center and I walked in and my boss said, "You have a quest today.
That's right.
Your quest is to go and teach this class." That would be kind of odd, I guess. But
We had to do.
Damn cool. though.
We.
It's like, well, what's my reward?
Yeah, I was gonna say at some point you might feel a little more inspired.
yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. Tasks. Justin just said task system, which is interesting because that is the quest system that I was writing in the MMO Tech was just that. Your quest broke down into a list of tasks because I wanted the system to be able to handle extremely complex task requirements, if you will. And the way I was modeling that out is, instead of looking at something like World of Warcraft, I was just thinking about the real world. If I was to ask Zach to do something for me, I'm giving him a quest, or I'm giving him a mission or a task. But the closer I started looking at the things that I would ask even people around here to do, let alone something more complex, and with like Lee, and looking at how this could be broke down and handled inside of a game format, an interesting system started to come about. Because I just don't want to have some sort of let's just go grind and pick up pine cones for the next 3 hours, because that would be very boring. And Zach has a very scary look on his face. What's that look?
Angela has just earned retribution.
What?
I shall have to avenge myself.
Did she show alcohol?
No. She peeked around the corner with 2 pizzas.
Oh.
And then went right back around the corner.
I see.
There must be revenge for this.
I see.
Sorry.
And now back on the quest/task system. Yes, in other words, the tech demo had a more complicated quest system than WoW does. You could do so much more with it, even if there was only 2 zones and 4 quests.
True, but come on, man.
But oh my God, you could do everything.
Hell yeah! I was just wanting to just explore how involved that could be. And another thing that's important to me, I'll just throw out just some of the very high level ideas I have, is player generated quests. Again, in the real world, even just looking around here, I see, Zach asking Gavin to do something, or
Especially stuff that I just can't be bothered to do.
yeah. and and then we have the problem of griefing, and how do we want to handle that? And there's some very interesting things that I would like to see there. I think having the ability to, again, I am very much simplifying some of the things I've talked about in the past, but put a hit out on somebody is something that is very important to me. There's a lot of detail that goes with that. It's not quite as simple as what I'm saying at the moment. And
I still want to see the AI generated quests
and
that we discussed.
Correct. Then the AI generated quest is something that is an absolute must, and it's going to be a very interesting thing to fill out. But I want NPCs that exist in the world with reason, as opposed to, and I don't mean reason by which they've been. There's a storyline that's been written, and the
You don't
guy
mean
is
purpose.
Yeah, I you want
them to have basic reasoning abilities.
If Johnny's running if he's running the local pub, he's got stock. I mean, he knows what kind of alcohols and other things he's got, and those things, they diminish as they're being utilized by the people that come in and are served. And he may have jobs for people to do, or what happens if that place gets attacked and he gets killed, and now it needs to be rebuilt. He does not need to come back and be the same guy that's running it again. He got killed, damn it. So and again, this is I'm keeping this extremely simple at the moment with the way I'm explaining this, because some of these discussions we have had in the past got involved, and hours were spent going over stuff. But that's a very basic idea of what Lee means when Lee talks about what about AI generated quests. I want a world. Let me say this. I want a world that I can go into at any given time and not know what I'm going to find. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the example that Gavin and I came up with when we were talking the other night when I was explaining it to him is because we're talking about being able to populate things in the world like farms. And we're talking about, okay, the world decides this is a good place for a farm and builds a farm there. Some NPCs come by that have a farming skill. They decide to take up residence. They start farming. And a couple, game years later, the farmer has a kid, raises a kid grows up on the farm, but he's got skills as a blacksmith or an engineer. He, gets fed up working on the farm, walks into town, there's a blacksmith that's vacant, or a smithy vacant. He takes up that as his shop and goes to work there. Then, you could go in there and one day you work with him, and then the next thing you know, he's walked into the city to go get something that he needed, and then there was a smithy in the city that was there, and he decides to take up residence there, and he just moves.
It's like listening to Peter Molyneux.
Yep.
The key thing being that ideally the like Lee says, this would stem from the world doing things. This not pre-programming, just basically giving it starting conditions to and then having the world be what the world is. It's like everyone's mum tells them, the world doesn't revolve around you, and that although obviously as a hero amongst plebs, the world kind of revolves around you. If you go back to it ties in with the problem of these huge one-off events or not that has been raised on the forums, and there seems to be as much quite a division of opinion on these.
Yeah, and
in terms of
I can say this,
whether they should be revisitable or not.
Right, and I do know this is where MMOs are going in the direction we're talking now. I mean, with Guild Wars 2, with the way they're now pushing their stuff. It was Jeff Wilson sometime back when he was still working here that sent me a link saying, hey, you might want to go over and watch this, because they just described the quest system very similar to how you had described it a couple weeks back. And I went over there, and it's still not exactly what I'm envisioning, but I think the whole MMO world is going to slowly start going in this direction. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion, because it's now getting very old going into World of Warcraft and doing your dailies, and it's just the same routine every single day. Or if I want to start a new character and start leveling up again, yes, if I pick a new class altogether, a new race, I get to experience a few new quests that I hadn't done before. But then the next thing you know, I'm back on the standard track of quests, seeing the same story, the same thing I've done. Let's take World of Warcraft, for example. I'm gonna come in as I'm gonna be an undead mage, and I'm gonna start in the hell's that little bitty place out in Thirstful Glades?
Thirstful.
Brill?
It's not quite Brill. It's right before you get to Brill, but you start out there, same damn things every time, and
it's the Sepulchre.
And then I think that's it. Then you work your way up to finally, hey, it's Undercity. Now, what if we change things up a little bit? What if human players, now I'm just looking at World of Warcraft at the moment, what if human players from the Alliance could come in and attack that very small town? Because that little it's not even a town. It's just a few buildings, and do they even have a mailbox?
A graveyard.
Yeah, it's a graveyard.
They got a church. They got a church, couple houses, and a graveyard.
I think they just got a mailbox. Actually.
Ooh, if they just got one, then it's an upgrade. Because when I started back there, let me tell you what, there was no damn mailbox. You had to go all the way out to Brill, which could get your butt killed if you're level 1 and are wearing your underwear, basically. So imagine if the Alliance, a few guys, I'm going to use Toastich and Terry since they were the only ones always raining hell on everyone in World of Warcraft. What if those two guys decided to go out to the town, and the folks that run that town, because there's not a lot of NPCs out there, decided to attack it and burn it down, or perhaps they didn't want to burn it down, they wanted to claim it for themselves, and they could do that. Now let's think of this. I go to start a new character. Yes?
I just want to remind you that you started this whole thing by saying you didn't want to reveal that much. Now continue.
I'm still not. I'm keeping this.
Lee started laughing too. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
I'm still keeping this simplified. But now you come into the game as a brand new character that you just rolled, and you don't start there in Thirstful Glades at the typical starting spot. Now let's say you come into the world and you start at Undercity, and the NPCs are attacking back against real players to take it back. You're a level 1 person. They could say that, here could be a starting quest, that you're going to go with this...
Carry water to the
fighters. You're going to go with this group of battle mages that are going down there to reclaim this town. And you will have...
Assist with fortifications, handle reinforcements, transport the dead bodies.
Exactly. So it could be a whole slew of quests that you could now get involved with that is helping with a specific thing that's going forward.
Or like Enemy at the Gates. They just give you a reel of wire and tell you to start crawling in that direction.
That's just a very quick, that's why I said I'm not going to go deeper, because I know you guys are laughing because this gets off into a very complex world that I would like to see. But if you think about it, let's look at us as game masters 6 months after the whole game's going, and someone says, all right, well, what's the state of the game? Hell if I know. Let me log in. Holy crap, I just didn't see that happening. I want us to look at, we can't model the real world, but I want us to take heavy cues from the real world. That's when I was looking at the quest system that was being originally designed in the tech. Let's look at the real world. How does it work? What if I wanted to pick up a machine gun today? Okay, I got to be careful how I word this.
It's like, what sort of horrific thing are you about to say? Yeah.
But what if I somehow managed to talk Zach and Angie and Lee into coming over, and some of you guys out there into coming over here, and we managed to get our hands on illegal weapons, and we took over Dixon?
I'm going to get subpoenaed.
No, hang on, because we're not going to really try to think. But what if we took over Dixon? Stop thinking of it like a game and thinking of it like real world. What's going to happen?
Well, the SWAT team's going to come down.
That's right. Hang on. Good.
Military's going to surround us.
Stop. Let's start simple.
We'll make it on CNN.
You're right. The SWAT team's going to come out. Ooh, the CNN, that's good. So now newscast, so especially in the human world, where the human world has access to computers and what's going on with news and the propaganda and all that, so that's going to start flooding out. With the FBI, you're absolutely right, Mr. BC Bat. We're going to have is that Big Chuck? I'm not sure. But anyways, we've got the FBI is going to be coming in. We've got, so we've got law enforcement that's coming in. Now, they're not just going to come in and storm our town if we're doing a damn job of holding it and holding hostages as well. At least not at first. Start simple. Now let's take a look back over into the World of Warcraft. Start simple. We've got Brill right outside of where you would normally spawn in. So Brill decides to send some of their not quite as highly leveled people, that NPCs that you would have in Undercity, but they decide to send some of these guys, which are now leaving their post at Brill, which Brill's now able to be attacked if you want to look at it that way. But they're sending them out to see what's happening, to attack, to try to get the little town back, to kill Terry and Toastage. Same thing here. We've now got the FBI, and they're wanting to negotiate with us. If that doesn't work, let's say they attack and they fail. What happens next, Zach? Real world. We've killed the FBI. They've come in.
Well, I think our final minutes are going to end up being leaked from like the machine gun cam of an Apache helicopter. But I mean, I really think you just kind of wind up in escalation until it's all over.
Thank you. It's going to.
It's like when I think National Guard comes in next.
The bottom line, exactly, and we're going to start moving up towards military. Even in World of Warcraft, yes, I'm describing something that's much more complicated than what they have now, but Brill could have sent some people out, got their butts kicked. Undercity could have got involved then, at that point, sending people out, and, well, with Terry and Tosich, they would have taken it back. End of story, and then Brill needed to be rebuilt, and then if you came in and you spawned in that area, now you're helping rebuild the area, because that's now important. Not the same, take this scroll to that guy over there because I'm too lazy to cross the road and hand it to him myself. Instead, can you please go out and bring back wood that we need in rebuilding, this place right here. But you can see how it could get interesting if you somewhat model it after reality, where reality is not predictable. And I know I'm not necessarily describing something that's easy to do, but I don't care. We've got amazing people that's in the class. We've got people that have tossed out amazing ideas, and these are things that I want to explore. I think it would be absolutely awesome. I like the idea of going into a world, and I come in and I'm like, holy crap, what the, Imagine if you would have logged out of the game in that little bitty area that's now taken over by the Alliance, and when you log back in next time, perhaps logging out at a major city could be much more beneficial to one's health than logging out in some little 3-building town in the world that I'm describing. Because if you come back in and the bad guys are now sitting around a fire laughing about how they slaughtered everyone, and you come in right beside them, it's like, oh, crap. And you're going to end up dead, too. It's going to suck. But
we've had that experience in WoW. It's like log in the middle of what was that? The hills.
Out in Terran Hills or Terran Mill.
Yeah.
Oh my!
Terran
And that has happened.
And log in is when it's under Alliance TAC.
Yep, and they're like, squishy horde marshmallows, my favorite.
And now Tools just said, just putting out there, since Warhammer Online had some problems with population balancing at launch, one side basically zerging the other side. Yeah, and we've got a lot of things that we're going to have to consider, for sure. But what I would like to do, come on, guys. We can't go out and compete with Blizzard, right? We can't go complete with BioWare, right?
Not today.
Not today, and maybe never. Who knows? But, I like Michelle's attitude. Sure we can. Well, we could try. But I like the idea of we build what we want to build. And let's try to take this outside of what is the norm for MMOs these days. Let's try to make something that's interesting and fun. Even if it's just us and our friends getting in there and playing with it. It would still be great to jump into a world, even if we started it out and we just had a real small zone, right? Because obviously we've got to crawl before we walk once we start getting into the MMO actual construction. And this is the exact same thing that Lee and I did with the MMO Tech. It started out as just a museum. It started out as one room. And I remember having...
Well, I fully expect this to happen.
Well, actually, let's be honest. It started out as the Smithsonian, and then it had to get shifted to a room.
But if we made something small,
Jesus.
and we can get 100, even 100 of you guys that are out there involved in the class to come in and help out, that's enough to put a giant smile on my face, because I can say, going in the game today, I have no fracking clue what I'm going to find, and that would be awesome. And
well, that's usually the transition from pre-production into production is you have a fully playable test zone or level that you can go in and go, okay, this is all the stuff that we would like to kind of implement that we're kind of going for, and see if it works. And go, yeah, this all works. We can do it. Then go and make a fully sized world realize from there.
oh yeah, we'll build from there. But I mean, if this kind of a world I'm describing doesn't work, then I don't care. We're just going to look at, all right, well, how do we make it work? Wolf Knightley said just a second ago, he said it the best. I love worlds that are not too static. I agree.
Can I?
Yes,
can I
Gavin, please.
jump in there? Because it's something actually that it also goes with the idea of the problems of balancing things, which is that I actually think that if you get these smaller variations in that make it feel more realistic on a almost an interpersonal level, the way you react, the way you interact with NPCs and so forth, as well as other PCs. If you get that variance in at the small level, it's a bit like adding the high frequency noise to a terrain to give it that extra bit of interest. You don't need these massively cataclysmic events to keep people coming back and finding new interest in the game, because you can start to get attached. It's not like, well, an example I used in discussion with NATO was the quest that you, well, in games where you die and you go back to a previous save point and go at them again, the guy giving you the quest is the same guy in the same jacket, sat at the same stool in the same bar, and gives you the same cutscene that if they've really missed the mark you can't even escape through. But it's always the same. And actually that basic example of a mafia boss calls you in to give you a hit to put out on someone, it doesn't need to be, well, it doesn't need to be the mafia boss. He's a mafia boss. He has people to deal with people like you. Some mafia don's not going to get his hands dirty, possibly be seen with an assassin. That's mental. If you take that's a sort of real world view of it.
You're drifting.
But you can look at that from you can look at that from in game, rather than have the same mafia boss sat in his same place giving you the quest. Make it one of his minions. It just becomes one of the minions. It doesn't have to be the same one. It doesn't have to be the exact same wording of the quest every time. It can be small variations like that.
Gavin, you're losing people.
Yeah.
It's okay, Gavin. It's okay. I think I was with you, brother.
I mean, well, even some of the oldest games that I've ever played that involved a mafia boss type character, I don't think I've ever actually accepted missions from the mafia boss until we get really, really far into reputation level with them. But I hear what you're saying. The only thing is, like, if you're saying every time I play the game I want every single quest to be completely different and every single character that I bump into to be completely different, you just have to be careful. I'm not saying it couldn't be done. I'm just saying you have to be careful that you're not making an infinite number of games for people to play.
No. But it doesn't have to be all of just that's what I'm saying. Small, where you can get the smaller.
Yeah, he's saying that you don't have to have
variation.
these big cataclysmic events that that have to repeat. That once you start getting into a fluctuating small set of changes that constantly ripple out, that right there is enough to really create an experience of the, oh God, I missed this big event that we've got to make sure happens again. One of the things that, and I just want to throw this out there, and it may have already been said in the IRC, because again, I can't look at the IRC when I'm talking, otherwise I I'm like Gavin, because I think Gavin's looking at the IRC when he's
Thanks
talking.
for that.
No, you and I.
No,
I agree with
I
him.
was thinking it.
I think you and I
Yeah,
are.
so do I.
I think you and I are identical, and I only say that because I've spent hours with you away from radio shows and classrooms, and listening to you with Nelson or with Lee, you remind me just like me. I'm just disciplined enough to know that I have to look away and kind of at just a dark spot on the wall so that I can get out what I want to say, so I don't go, ooh, shiny. What was
Jason,
that?
you're drifting.
Yep, see, exactly. and I did just look over there. Damn it. So, but I don't know if anybody has said this, but I want to say that this is constantly on my mind, and that's griefers. Because in the world that I'm describing, that I would like to see, that's a griefer's paradise. It's like, oh my God, you're telling me I can go into this world and just pee on everybody and just cause so much hell? Answer, yes. But I am.
It comes with a price.
It has to come with a price, and Lee loves the idea of pirates, but as you become in the real world, as you become more wanted by doing worse and worse evil things, it becomes miserable. You might get to a point where you cannot go up to an NPC and buy something. You can't even show your face in a town. Even if it's a town that's on the faction that, on your side. And if we can find a nice balance to make it to where, yes, you can grief. You can go give people miserable times. But it comes with consequences that starts making the game more difficult from you. And not just because of, look how challenging it is. More difficult in, oh God, I can't really go out and do much because I got to stay hidden like in the real world. Otherwise,
So luckily, it's a very big world. You can go live in the wilderness.
exactly. And what fun would that be?
I don't know. It could be awesome.
It could be. So these, I just want to make sure that those out there that are hearing me say just some of my basic ideas, that are thinking, oh dear God, that's you're creating a griefer's paradise, and it'd just be a miserable game to jump into.
Sure, why not?
I'm trying to create the paradise, and I'm also trying to create, the purgatory that they can visit for enjoying a little bit of the forbidden fruit, if you will. So, anyways, that's kind of what's on my mind, anyways, in regards to all of that. So, a lot of you out there for the first time are now hearing some of the things that I'm thinking about, and hopefully, for the most part, most of you guys like where my head's at. I have a lot more to share, but I kind of wanted to start out really with today and tomorrow being more of you guys talking to us.
Yes.
Well, good. I see.
It's like, we may be only a few guys, but damn it, we dream big.
And I sure as hell want us to attempt it too. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're not trying to charge $1 million for the class as a product or anything like that. Like I said from the very first day with the welcome visit, welcome video. That's what I get for looking at the IRC. I have no idea where this is going to be in a year from now. I just know that this class is way more than a class to me. This is a personal challenge, and I love the fact that we're getting to share it with people, and I love the fact that we're doing it for an unbelievably cheap rate. I mean, if you join up, and if you do a whole year worth up front, like I know a lot of you have, then one, it's not going to be coming out monthly. Two, you've saved 2 months, so you're getting it really cheap. I look at, even in year number 1, the amount of content that we're going to get out to you guys, the amount of things that I want us to experiment and do, I hope justifies that money 10, 20 times more than in real value, is what I'm hoping. But what I'm trying to get across is we don't have boundaries in front of us. And I know not everyone wants to hear that, because I've already started receiving the messages about when are we moving on from terrain and straight into the server. I just saw a great post the other day talking about RACnet 4 now with the ability to do some C# stuff. I mean, we're allowed to change anything at any time if we want to. If I think it will better suit us completing the worlds we would like to see, then I'm going to do that. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Now, I don't plan on jumping ship from Unity. I'm very pleased with how Unity's work is working for us. Yes, I'm a bit disappointed that we weren't in any of their newsletters, but that's something different. I'm not bashing their software. They have awesome software. I still absolutely love it. So don't think for a second I'm like, I'm going to jump ship from doing Unity. That's not going to happen. But
and please don't tell me I've got to write a game engine now.
no, we're not doing that. That's why we
I know.
that's why we can explore doing these things, Lee, because we do have a game engine that I like.
And it makes things easy to test things very fast.
Anyways,
We're going to do it in Quake 3.
You know, apologies for being so passionate about this, but I'm just trying to get across how much this means to me personally, with or without you guys in the class. This is something that intrigues me, and it's an amazing opportunity that has presented itself to us, where once Zach gets the last of ADP done, and that's completely out of the way, and I have all of my guys working on this thing pretty much full time. Yes, we will still squeeze in videos that will be free, and for member sponsors that don't care about the MMO, that will still keep those guys happy. But this is where I want the bulk of all of our time to go, because this is awesome. Damn it. All right, anyways, let me go ahead and wrap this up. We've been going now for an hour and 25 minutes this time around. Again, a huge thank you for your time today and for bearing with us throughout this past week while we've been getting the new streaming system up. If any of you guys out there do stumble on any security concerns, and you're one of the honest kind that like to share those concerns with me, please do. I would greatly appreciate it. Apparently, we were having quite a few of our videos being stolen, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the only thing you can say. And we you know, how can we keep doing all this MMO stuff with those of you in the class? We're not getting rich. We're not even getting, well, Zach's at least making minimum wage now, I think. Are you making minimum?
I wasn't going to approach that. Let's just roll right on past it. Continue trucking.
But you guys are helping fund us to be able to explore and to do these things and to share them with you. And you guys share cool stuff with us for us to try and then put it in video format for you guys to see and for us to be educated from it and for everyone to get educated from it. And that's what I'm hoping to see us continue to do. But yeah, if you do stumble on anything that concerns you, please let me know in a PM over at BuzzBJ. It would be most appreciated. I'm looking back over here. I noticed the other day that my address and username was bouncing around the video output, and at one point it had gone. Just to let you know that, and it's stuff I'm still tweaking on. I am doing the best I can to fade stuff out and back in at different times. I'm trying to make it as little of a disturbance as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all. So just and there's still another tweak that I'm going to do with that as well to help out even more. Again, I'm constantly trying to think of you guys and watching the videos. I don't want to make things too much of a pain in the ass, if you know what I mean. But Zach, is there anything you want to? I didn't mean to steal the floor for 20 minutes.
I'm glad you did. I think it's. I think something that I'd like to throw out there is that we're still going to have a meeting tomorrow. I do hope that some of you can return, but I understand.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that you guys are more than welcome to.
Yeah, it's not like by coming today means you can't come tomorrow. I'm not going to do my reading again. We broke that out very nicely, so I think you guys can go listen to that again if you need to. But I would like to encourage you, if you're planning on joining us or not, to be thinking about any topics you might have in the world of gameplay mechanics, actually the creation of an MMO RPG, things that are important to you. Jot them down, send them to me via email or via PM, and we'll take a look at those. If you can be here and actually talk about them in person, excellent. If you had to send them in by proxy, that's fine too. Just I want you guys to be thinking about that, because that's something I'd really like to hit on tomorrow.
I did see a question that scrolled by a second ago, and a few people commented about it. I like the idea personally. Let me run it by you, Zach. What do you think about having a game mechanics forum? I mean, we definitely don't want to put tons of forums out there, but I think the story one and lore has been used quite nicely.
I don't have a problem with it.
And if we had a game mechanics, it would be very specific.
The way I always approach those is to see if I can come up with any compelling argument not to do it. And since I can't, yeah, sure.
Okay.
R&D.
We're going to end up with 150 forums. Shut up, Lee.
I asked a long time ago.
Couldn't we do mechanics and R&D or no? Yeah, I guess not. 'Cause it's specifically-
Yeah, we're going to end up with like 50 bloody
See, that's the
forums.
problem, guys.
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things.
And then you'll end
But
up
see,
with
Justin starts out by saying Lee's forum, and then as soon as you start hearing a lot of interesting stuff that I or Nelson's doing, then it's gonna be like, let's give Buzz a
I
forum. or
noticed
let's give
nobody ever
Nelson-
wanted to give me a forum.
Oh hell no! You've already got a story and lore forum. What are you talking about? So then we just got to be careful. And then Meat's gonna want a forum, and we've got to give Meat a forum because it's Meat. So
Everybody should have their own forum with sub forums.
You know, for like 6 seconds, we contemplated something like this. Anyway, I think,
all right,
I think it's time to kind of bring things to a close.
And Joey asked about, was there any more thought on Blender videos that were hinted at in the welcome? Yes, those and the Messiah Pro videos. As a matter of fact, Messiah Pro before Blender. But the answer is yes.
Actually, since you were forums had just been mentioned, did you see the request about Messiah forums?
Yes,
There was a
I
thread
saw that.
about that.
I saw
Okay.
that. Somebody wants
Okay,
Messiah
cool.
for him.
And that could be a good one to put outside of MMO, of course, for everyone, so that everyone can
Oh yeah,
see it.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think a lot of people have picked it up on 3D Buzz, not just in the MMO class, but it would be great to get everyone using it, and including us, and having a good time with it, because it looks like some very powerful software, and I've heard good things about it throughout the years.
Oh, I've been excited about Messiah since the first year I ever went to SIGGRAPH.
Yeah.
And just sat there at their booth and watched a few of their demos and just drooled.
All right, guys. Well, we will go ahead and wrap this up again. A huge thanks, Gavin. Thank you as well, sir. And thank you, Lee, for your time. As a matter of fact, Lee, once this is over, I need to get a hold of you so we can discuss a few things anyways. And again, the class tomorrow will be 7 p.m. our time, 8, 9, 10,
1 a.m.
1 a.m. GMT time. So for those of you that happen to be awake overseas, and if you want to come in and listen or add things that you've thought about as Zach has asked you to do, please feel free and do so. And I will, once I get this done, I got to talk with Lee for a minute, and then I'll get on encoding these videos so that you guys have access to them really soon. So if you need to go back over Zach's story, that'll be very easy to find and go through. So thank you guys very much. That will conclude this video. We're out of here. Bye.